Welcome to our latest ARRA author chat. Today we're chatting with Harlequin author Nikki Logan. Nikki was nominated for the ARRA Romance Author of the Year, and also one of her books, Rapunzel in New York, was also nominated for an award this year. Congratulations, Nikki.
Thank you so much. Really excited to be here for ARRA, and just really thank you for the opportunity. Love to talk to your members.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we'll dig out some nuggets of information that they didn't know.
Excellent.
Nikki, I was really excited to read that you actually wrote your first book in 2007 when you were on a 6-month annual leave, and you decided you just needed a project. Why a book?
Well, do you know, I actually, because I knew I had 6 months is a long time, and I knew I would get bored, and I was going to write a non-fiction, like my memoirs, very early, and I thought I might just start with something easy. I'll just have a little practice run with some fiction, which, you know, what an idiot, as if that was going to be easier. So I did. I just sat down and started to write the story that I wanted to tell, and just to see how it went and see how it felt, and it felt good.
Have you ever had that book published?
That book actually comes out next month for Entangled. I'm really so excited because it was, its first incarnation, a very imperfect book. I wrote I didn't even know that writing organisations existed until I finished. I literally typed to the end and then went, what if there's any writing groups in Australia? And then, of course, found Romance Writers of Australia and realised how little I knew, and it was just all horrible. And I spent the next few years just going over and over that manuscript in between all my other books, getting it right and fixing it up. And so it's really exciting for me that it finally gets to see the light of day, because I love those dogs in that book.
I did read that you consider yourself a pantser writer. Is that something that you'd encourage?
Not for everyone, perhaps. It's not a very disciplined way of writing a book, but I just find that maybe it's because I go quite quickly. I can pretty much get a first dirty draft of a book in about a month if I really focus on it, which means there's no time for plotting when you write like that. So I tend to just write the thing, get to the end, and then realise what the story was all about, and then I go back and tweak. So tidy it up, or draw together the threads that maybe I had kind of left hanging. And so for me that works, and sometimes I do get stuck and I will have a little bit of a plot just to get myself out of a hole, but mostly I just kind of, my fingers just capture what comes down out of my head, so I really just let my subconscious do all the work.
With romance writing, one of the challenges is the tight schedule that you have. You have 4 books a year or something like that. Now, is that one of the nice challenges or the bad challenges? Because with every job comes the good and the bad. And how do you find new ideas?
Well, for me, a deadline is a good challenge. It keeps me focused and it keeps me on task. Otherwise, I could just end up roaming around the internet for 8 hours a day. So knowing that somebody's expecting a book, in fact, knowing that I have a contract that legally requires me to have a book in their hands by a certain date I find really useful. And as for ideas, look, they just come willy-nilly out of nowhere, and if I can't hold an idea in my head, I'll stick it in my phone. I've got a little folder in my phone which is full of just glimpses or ideas or just an image that I might see that can go in a book later. So the ideas come much faster than I can generate a book generally.
So you just keep a folder on your phone with all the ideas. So when you finish one book, you can an idea hasn't come to you, then you can go to your folder and have a look through.
Exactly, or pretty much. I generally, if an idea stays in my head and won't be consigned to the folder, I know it's going to be a future book, because it just won't be put aside. So generally I don't have the capacity to make it the next book, because I usually will have kind of booked up my year. So they have to be patient, some of my ideas, and if they're gone by the time I get there, then that's it. They're gone.
Fair enough. Actually, I had read that you're a very visual person, that you see your books in your head like a movie. How do you find the animals? Do they just walk onto the movie set of your book?
Uh, you know, I often will start with the nature angle or the animal angle because I think, what animal would I like to have this time? Depending on you know the nature of the story. But I have wildlife experience. I work in conservation as my day job, and they are really easy to conceptualize for me. I struggle much more with people than with the animals in terms of bringing them to life on the page. Probably just because animals for me are so self-actualizing. They just write themselves really, and the more personality, the better.
I must say that I met you at the book signing for RWA on the Gold Coast recently, and I was very very chuffed to pick up your latest book, which is The Miracle Twins. And I loved the fact that the heroine looked after porcupines. Well, what an unusual animal.
Yes.
So do you have any experience with porcupines? Or?
Well, Echidna's in that book, and she was British, so I looked around for an equivalent for her. I thought, you know, how do you throw a Brit into outback New South Wales and get her helping with wildlife? So I remembered that one of my Twitter followers is the Hedgehog Society of the UK. I love a hedgehog. And so I thought, well, that's transferable skills. They're quite similar. They're not identical, but close enough. And so I thought, well, that's what she could have done. She had some money back in the UK and not much time, and I thought she would probably help out at the Hedgehog Society. So when she got to Australia, it was very easy for her to fit right in and start looking after little injured echidnas that need rehabbing. So that worked well, I thought. There were also platypuses in that book, and that was much harder because there's nothing like a platypus. So I enjoyed having her just find them a complete mystery.
I must admit that I haven't read a lot of the current range of Mills and Boon or Harlequin books, so I didn't really know what to expect from you. And I loved it. You made me laugh out loud, and I made my partner actually listen to me read that passage. And then towards the end, because I did stay up until I had finished the book, which also got me into trouble, and I was crying towards the end as your heroine had to make this massive decision, life-changing decision. So I loved it, and I have actually downloaded another one onto my iPad ready to read. So
well, that's brilliant. That's possibly one of the highest compliments you can pay me. If people who have gone away from category romance and maybe they haven't read it in a long time, or they have an old, outdated understanding of what category romance is. I love to hear that people will come back to it and give it another crack, because the genre moves on so quickly, and so for every old Mills and Boon out there, there's now a new Mills and Boon and new voices, no pun intended, and it's just awesome to get a chance to put your work before somebody. That's why book signings are so brilliant, because you're a perfect example. There was 100 women in that room that maybe had never thought about picking up my book, and so now a big bundle of them have, and maybe they will become future readers and repeat buyers, which is all I can ask. I think that's brilliant.
Well, I definitely will, Nikki. I will find the rest of your books and read them. So I can't recommend that book more highly. It will get you in trouble with your partner, however, because it's very hard to put down.
I was thinking about doing like a joint promotion with maybe Kleenex or something.
I think that
so
would
everyone
work
comes
well.
with a pack of tissues in the back.
Definitely.
Or tear out pages so you can wipe away. I do tend to be a bit of a weepy author. Like, I love a good angsty, crunchy conflict between my characters, and I just have the best time writing them because I just sit there sobbing, as I'm typing it all out, and I know that if I'm crying, you'll be crying, and that's great.
Well, mission accomplished with that one, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So with us,
go ahead.
Well, you were just saying how modern Mills and Boon, there is such a variety. Would you ever consider trying a different branch of Mills and Boon fleet?
I'm not not sure, because there's a lot to be said for branding, and Mills and Boon readers know me one way. I am now writing for Entangled with romantic suspense, and it's actually been quite nice to write with a second publisher in that very different style. Even though I totally believe that readers can discriminate, between styles of writing, I think if I was in the same publishing house, that might blur the boundaries. As it is, I write for what we have in Australia as Sweet is in the UK broken down into two, which is Cherish and Reaver. Now, Reaver has just now come out in America, or it's just about to, as the new Kiss line. So although the rest of the world sees them as one book and one line, I do technically write for two in America and the UK. So I'm lucky. I get to write for both lines, which not everyone does. So I think two's probably enough, and the third one, which is an external publisher, that's going to confuse people heaps. I might leave it at that.
Well, you have also written a non-fiction book, which grabbed my attention instantly.
Oh, that's right. I continue to confuse people. I got to present this just last weekend at the Romance Writers of Australia National Conference, and it was a workshop that I did 2 years ago in Perth, where I come from, for SwanCon, which is a science fiction fantasy conference, and they had a romance stream. And I started researching this presentation about the chemistry of reading and how your body reacts while you're having the reading experience, and what that means as a writer, and how you can use that knowledge to make your books sort of unputdownable. And it was just such a huge topic. The more I read, the more I found, and I wasn't satisfied with the way that information had been put together out there. So I thought, I can do that better. So I wrote my own book about it. It's a craft book, I guess. It's not very long. It's about 40 pages, but it's long enough to get the point across. And I kind of took all that science and chewed it up and then spat it out as what I hope is a good theory for people who love to learn more about writing. And so, yeah, I self-published it as a bit of a test to see how the whole self-publishing thing goes and how it works. So I'm hoping it will do well.
Well, I like the fact that you actually still managed, even though it's a non-fiction book, to weave some animals into it, because the cover is beautiful.
Joe, one of the points that the book and my lecture series makes is that if you combine images with words, you double the cognitive kind of experience, and you double the chances of somebody remembering the content. And so, although I could use a heap of images in my presentation, I thought, well, I can't really in the book because they're all copyright. So I went to a friend of mine, Jodie Davidson, who's a young artist, and she's just getting into illustrations, and she illustrated for me, which was just brilliant. And those little lizards right through that book, I loved it because it was very fitting for my nature sort of thing. But they also are so on topic compared, in terms of what the content of that book is. So that was great. And yeah, the cover is absolutely beautiful. I was really happy with that.
Excellent. It's certainly lovely, and it did grab my attention.
Job well done then.
Absolutely. Nikki, I remember earlier in our chat you were talking about, the fact that you could, you have bad days. What do you do to get yourself out of a writer's block, I guess?
My washing. I can't indulge writer's block. I'm somebody who, if I let myself off the hook, then that's where I stay. And so what I try to do mostly is just push through writer's block. I'll sit and do something else. So I might write like a 1,000-word little snippet about something, or maybe the end of another book, or just something to do with a related character from a previous book. If whatever it is, if I can't work on the book that I'm working on, I'll try and always do something, and so that my body's not indulged. And if I went and sat and watched TV, then that would just become a habit. So I generally do that. If I'm really, really bad, if something's going on, we all have stress in our lives, that I think it's just going to come out as black on the page, then I actually will let myself off the hook and I will not write. But I try and do other things like remake my website or make a book trailer or just something that's not writing related but at least feels productive. So because I have that kind of personality that if I stopped and sat on the couch and played PlayStation, I would do it for 9 days straight.
I call that, I try and do that at work as well, because I am also, if I let myself off the hook, I will just keep going. And I call that productive procrastination, where I'm still doing work that's kind of related, but I'm not actually doing the task that is holding me back. So I'm glad that other people do that as well.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Productive procrastination, we'll call that.
It works for me. Nikki, can you give us a little bit of a hint? You have a book coming out in September in Australia. It has been released in the US and the UK, I think you told me. Can you tell us anything about that? Like, what animals can we expect to see in Slow Dance with the Sheriff?
Well, yes, this is my 8th of an 8-book continuity with 8 romance authors, Harlequin romance authors. And the way continuities work is that when they're this big, is that you get what we call the Bible from your editorial office, and the Bible sets out the basics, like the town, the location, the basic characters, some of their backstory, and then the rest is just up to us as authors. So it was great. I got to be the second in the series and was assigned a sheriff, which I was so excited about because I have been to Texas and they do have very hot law enforcement.
Watch out for Deputy the Dog in Nikki's latest book, Slow Dance with a Sheriff. Deputy is based on Nikki's own dog, who has been nagging her about being in a book for some time. So when you read about Deputy lying at the sheriff's feet, think of Nikki hard at work with her dog faithfully keeping her company. That's released in September, so I'll be keeping an eye out for that, and I'm sure others will be too. Will it be released as an ebook?
I believe so. Harlequin puts everything out simultaneously on digital, so I guess it's going to come out as an ebook here, but also I think it is available as an ebook right now from both the US and UK sites. So unless you're one of those people that has trouble downloading from those sites, I'm not, then you can pick one of those up anytime now. And I would recommend it. I really like this book. I think because it's hard being handed the basic outline of a story and then trying to make it your own. But I was really happy with the way it came out and the way the nature angle came out and just the way the whole thing fit in.
Fantastic. Maybe I need to go and investigate. And you have a new book in the work, which you now have an official title for, which is How to Get Over Your Ex. And have you worked the nature angle in yet, or is that still waiting to come in?
No, do you know that one's already in and sorted, which was great. That was what Harlequin calls a duet, which means 2 books that come out separately, so they're not in an anthology, but they are interconnected. So Fiona Harper and I got to work on that together, and she was amazing because we set it in London, and she knew about my nature angle, and it turned out that her husband absolutely adores Kew Gardens in the UK. So she set her book in Kew Gardens, and that meant I needed to find somewhere to set my book that was related but not in the same setting. So I got to set it out at the Millennium Seed Bank in Wakehurst in the UK, and that was fantastic because that's right up my alley, the whole conservation thing. So I had a huge amount of fun researching what a seed bank does, and basically trying to make somebody whose job is to sort seeds all day into an exciting occupation. So that was good. So the nature angle is right through that book too.
Fantastic. I look forward to seeing how you made a seed sorting job
sexy. I know. And what I really like about that series is that it opens with basically my heroine proposes live on air to Fiona's hero, and he says no. So the 2 books go from there, and it's about how they find their way back to love, but just not with each other.
Fantastic. And when is that due for release, Nikki?
It comes out on Valentine's Day, most appropriately, in the US and the UK. I guess it'll be out in March in Australia. because Harlequin are now moving more towards simultaneous release, which is going to be so much easier for all of us. It gets quite tricky juggling all these different release dates internationally. So yeah, it's a Valentine's duet. So I get first pole position, and then Fiona's comes out the following month.
Lovely. I'll look forward to reading that one too.
Yeah.
Nikki, we might finish up there if that's okay.
That's
thank
great.
Thank you so much for your time.
It's been awesome coming and talking to you. Thank you very much. Great questions. As I said, I'm really pleased that you enjoyed the book, and I hope you do get to read more of mine. If there's anything you can't find, just call me. I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, again, thank you so much, and enjoy New Zealand. Nikki's over in New Zealand at the moment, so hopefully the weather's pleasant for you in the land of the long white cloud.
There are no clouds. It's all a lie. It's been absolutely beautiful and blue, and it really reminds me of home, so I'm feeling very comfortable here.
Excellent. Well, safe travels back to Perth, and hopefully we'll be talking again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.